Hello ladies and gents, I am Nadiffin, and welcome back to From the Depths, Ashes of the Empire Community Edition. So to start with, we have one of our existing designs has had an update, and that is the Challenger 2 by Archangler. So uploaded last episode, and it has a few small changes, but mainly it is the AI which has been adjusted, so I've been informed. So it should now perform a little bit better in manoeuvring. Seems to be functioning pretty much the same though, which is all good. And that cannon is still rather nice, as always, with those fairly potent Hesh rounds there. Still, it does get hit a little bit nastily by heat, but that is what happens when you face against Taipan, which is pretty good against tanks. Still, it's good to have an update of vehicles, and it's nice to know that they are still being upgraded all the time. But first new tank we have is the Basilisk Tank Destroyer by Rishio. A very low to the ground with a absolute ridiculous noodle barrel there. Yeah, that's quite silly, though it must have pretty accurate. What's the accuracy? Yep, that is a very accurate shell there. Let's hopefully see if it performs adequately against a tank. I don't think it will survive very long against an Onyx Watch design, so let's send it against something from the Steel Empires. So it's a very fast tank destroyer, that's for sure. And it just took all the hits at the front, and its shell just bounced straight off the front of the enemy tank. I'm not sure if it's got fuses. See it fire again. Maybe. Yep, it doesn't seem to have a fuse. Let's spawn it in and send against something which does not have a fuse. Yep, that does seem to be the case. Though I am a bit concerned by how fast it is, because it's outmaneuvering itself and then, well, no longer able to fire. So this could prove a few problems, and as soon as it does get hit, the wheels get disabled and then it is a sitting duck. Interesting design. I'll probably be spawning a couple of them since they are pretty cheap and don't seem to be the strongest vehicles of which I'm utilising at the moment. Next up we have the Heavy Gun Scout Tank by Similian. Doesn't seem very much a scout tank at that cost, but there we go. Okay, I think it might have been a scout tank which then put a heavy gun on it. That is... Okay, hopefully it won't just fall over when it fights against its target. We'll send against the Sentinel. I don't see how this is a scout tank. Is it going to fire again? Or have they already disabled the AI inside it? May have disabled the AI. Yeah, I think I disabled the AI on that. So let's load it in again and send against the Sentinel, but I'm actually going to disable the Sentinel. I want to see how well these cells actually do. Oh, they're big guns. Yeah, very slow refire rate it seems, but they are quite potent projectiles. Okay, a very slow refire rate it seems. Are you going to fire again? Maybe? Perhaps? There we go, eventually does fire again. Does seem to be a bit of a problem. That's a very slow refire rate. Let's have a look at the gun itself. See what the problem could be. That's an odd design, I must say, in terms of the shell. I'd design it very differently to that, but there we go. Hopefully it will be okay, but that slow refire rate is going to cause significant problems in the game, because if it misses, it's basically useless for a considerable portion of the fight. And a lot of these fights have been ending fairly quickly. Next, however, we have the laser hover tank by Tostov. Seems to be in very similar vein to the other hover tanks, which is always rather nice. But where is the laser? Ah, the laser is central spinal weapon there. So this could be quite potent, so I'll send it against the Sentinel and see how it fares. This turning isn't particularly amazing, but it does drift nicely. And it does have LAN system, which is going to prove very, very useful against the Onyx Watch, because just taking some of those crams down will be very useful indeed. The laser itself is quite strong, doing a significant damage to the side of the vehicle there. And its lance is able to take down the majority of shells being fired at it, which is really rather nice. That's probably limiting significantly the amount of damage it does firing those LAN systems, but it hasn't been hit at all by the Onyx Watch Sentinel. And that is going to be much more useful in terms of fleet combat than the actual laser, though the laser itself is going to be very, very useful indeed, being a nice hit scan weapon and, well, slowly but surely being able to core out the entirety of this craft here. That is very, very nice indeed. Next up, we have Richard Dastardly's Beluga Mark II, a flying laser hovercraft of doom with another spinal laser design. And this was mainly designed for fighting against the Lightning Hoods, but also against the Twin Guard. So let's send it against a few of the Twin Guard drones and see how it performs. So there are the Twin Guard drones all coming in, and it does have a very potent laser with a very high amount of AP, able to strip through the components almost instantaneously, and I get killed. Fantastic. Heading back to the fight, you can see that it is doing very nicely there, though simple lasers from those little drones has caused massive amounts of damage to the craft already. And that said, most of them are doing pretty poorly and falling out of the sky very admirably. I think I might send it against too many drones, because it does have a decent fire rate, but when facing against this many drones, they have just essentially completely swarmed it, and have made it not be able to do too much. Since it has such a high-powered laser, its defences systems are a little bit lacking in terms of how well it can keep itself in the air. It's doing quite well, but as can be seen, knocking off a few components has caused it to fall slightly out of the sky. It's a very useful design, and yes, I just sent it against too many drones. But as a component of the rest of the force, it's going to be very, very, very strong indeed. Nice, strong, accurate laser, able to take out heavy armour with ease. And finally, we have the TA-1 RA6L5 by Eagle. It's a small missile array tank, it seems here, with smoke and a good amount of missiles there. So let's send this against one of the Steel Empires. So there's the Hadron there. It's got particle accelerator, but you know, that'll be fine. So it's firing its array of missiles back out towards the Hadron. Oh. Hang on, is this the... the simple laser's still stupidly overpowered. They were patched to make them act like normal lasers, but unfortunately just made them even more potent. And I think that might be the case here. I'm just going to double check that. Yeah, they're deploying smoke. Firing particle accelerator tank is not a very good idea, it seems. So you have to take out all of them instantaneously. Okay, I think the simple lasers are actually still at their stupidly overly potent stage at the moment. They were strong before, and then they were balanced and were accidentally made even more powerful because now they are no longer affected by armor stacking. Let's just send this against something which I know does not have simple lasers. There we go. Nice EMP array missiles, doing quite significant damage there. This seems to be one of the weakest designs by Eagle, but it is also one of the more cheap ones, which is very good. We just seem to have been spawning it so it keeps on having its AI disabled. So it might be a little bit weak armoured at the rear here, but that's all okay. It's okay to have the odd design for in a structure, not make everything just stupidly overpowered. Still, a nice array of missiles would be very good. Just as I said, a little bit of potency to have its AI disabled quite readily. So with regards to the simple lasers being stupidly overpowered, I think they are still. So I'm just going to try this test again, where we sent 4 of the Rich Nasty's bunkers against a Lux. I have a nasty feeling they're going to do even more damage with this blast now than they did before. I think they are doing a little bit less because the Lux does have smoke. So that is quite something. However, as soon as that smoke runs out, all hell breaks loose. And these guys do also have smoke themselves, so as soon as that's deployed, they're doing less damage themselves there. Still, simple lasers are incredibly potent. Firing against something which does not have smoke. Let's see how well it does against this Onyx Watchcraft here. And as you can see, that array of shots just completely gutted the entirety of the craft in one go. These little guys did also lose most of their components, but that is an AI dead Bison in a single barrage. Let's see it all happen again. Only one is left alive at the moment. As you can see, though, it is just stupidly powerful. Accidental balancing making them tougher. Awesome, I love it. So stupidly powerful. Now the question is, where do I add in the new forces? So I should probably work at upgrading some of these forces. Steel Empire Force is probably the weakest in terms of numbers of forces, but it's still pretty potent in their own right. The Twin Guard one is still quite good. Onyx Watch is likely to receive the most casualties out of all of them, but is in itself doing quite well. I think I'll add the new units into the Steel Empire Force, since it is actually got the lowest numbers of units. I've also gone and retrofitted the Challenge 2, but in fact I didn't add all the designs into the Steel Empire Force. I've added in the 2 Lasercraft into the Twin Guard one. So let's see how it all works out in that case. Now it's got the slow process of making everything repaired up and ready to fight as soon as possible. These guys are almost out of materials. That is not good. So I'm not actually able to repair the new vehicle. A little bit of a pain. Let's send in one of the logistics craft in to support them. So I'm going to try and get this vehicle, I want to get the Steel Empire Force repaired up before they get into combat. There is that, the air wing coming in very soon. Relentless, Hexahedron and Gannet. It's not good there. Laser emplacements are about to get attacked by another group of these guys over here. Lightning Hoods, I kind of forgot they even existed still. Okay, so let's go to the laser emplacement and use them to annihilate this lightning hood's force. I might actually watch this, because if there's all those changes to the lasers, do actually need to see how it's going on. And no, not the radar balloon. Laser emplacements. Let us begin the battle. So I'm not expecting this to take very long at all to complete, because, well, I have the very high powered lasers, and then these simple lasers are just completely wrecking anything which gets remotely close. Though as you can see, the simple lasers aren't doing very much against smoke, which is quite good, but as soon as something gets out of smoke, it dies instantly. Insane. Yes, simple lasers are a little bit work differently now. I think they're way more powerful. It's interesting, to say the least. Still, victory is ours. Okay, the Steel Empire force is going to attack this one here, since it is currently trying to kill our radar satellites, and that will not stand. Okay, so we've got quite a bit spread. Oops, those tanks are a little bit too close. Oops, never mind. They should be able to do quite well, as our enemy is a fairly small combat force. So let's see how they fare. So not a huge number of targets to be facing off, but there is a very, very potent one there, and it does have a very large amount of LAM system, which is a pretty rare occurrence. And it is a very, very, very big tank. A load of large cram cannons and a incredibly high rate of fire main gun there, which is sending a huge number of projectiles towards our forces. Though, fortunately, our forces are pretty robust. Though, looking at that one, the tanks there has just flipped over upside down. That is the Kriegsjäger, I think, has flipped upside down there. And there's a load of projectiles landing near it. It's also exposed its underbelly to that high rate of fire blue projectiles there. Quick check of seeing how our forces are doing there, and they're doing alright. Fair amount of damage has been taken, really, but it's mainly the damage that's being focused on this. So the main turret does pop there. I'm really focusing on their vehicles because I haven't really seen them before. And our tanks are doing alright, so the Basilisks there dashing around. I thought that was the new missile tank, but no, that's the one over here. And it's doing alright this time. It hasn't had its turret popped off instantaneously like it did in the testing. And this scout tank, well, I missed it fire, so I'm not entirely sure it's going to have a chance to fire again for the rest of this battle. Close to counter in there, which I thought may have been a crash, but otherwise it was all okay. And the last target is going to be bombarded by missile fire. So the Relentless were a little bit more tricky than I thought. The boombox did take a significant amount of damage, as did the Rich Dastardly's light tanks, though the repair was able to be effected on it properly and it survived the conflict without too much problem, which is good. Next though, we do have this. It's going to be a three-party battle in this conflict over here. So let's see how this performs. And I think the Twin Guard and Steel Empire are actually allied to each other, so it's going to be a little bit more interesting. So let's engage in this large battle. It's going to cause a little bit of trouble for us, I believe, since there's a lot of enemy forces ready to fight against us. Thankfully we do have the Beluga and the Laser Hover, which are going to perform invaluable against the Twin Guard forces. With even combined forces, we still outnumber both of them, which is going to be really, really handy. This is going to be messy though. Yeah, messy doesn't really cover it. There's a lot of enemy forces here, and yeah, it can be potentially very nasty. The lasers being fired against a flat cannon there, which is doing a lot less damage than I was anticipating. I was kind of expecting that to go up in a huge explosion, which is why I dashed over to it. Otherwise, a load of smoke is being deployed and missiles are going everywhere. Mostly coming from the Steel Empire, but quite a few from the Twin Guard as well. You can see there, travelling through to hit various targets in our forces, though they spread out quite handsomely. Land systems from the Steel Empire are doing quite a good job at destroying themselves from our forces, which is quite irritating. Again, I was expecting that thing to explode, but it does not. And it's actually doing quite nicely there. It's taking a little bit of damage, but nothing too bad. The proto tank going in for its kill, getting probably a little bit too close, though at this point in the battle it doesn't matter too much. Well, the Benny Blades there is doing quite good, firing its shells at long range and also using its simple lasers to great effect. Geez, there looks like it might end up ramming one of our own vehicles, but in case it doesn't seem to hit it in the end. And the enemies are basically running out now. We've cleared most of them up with very, very minimal damage. And Stake there firing its particle accelerator down and completely whacking through that turret, annihilating it. And now, one of the FtDs just crashes and loses its entire turret and actually almost dies, knocking itself to very, very close. If there were more enemies around, it would likely have been destroyed at this point. Though we're now into the last bit and just essentially waiting for the enemy to all be defeated, and loads of them are too damaged, but a few of it still being sustained by repairs. Still, a fair amount of damage is being dealt to our own vehicles by ramming into each other, and the various missing and shooting each other in the back, which unfortunately happened a lot more than I care to admit. Missiles striking the target here and actually being detonated by friendly rounds, which again is a little bit irritating, but otherwise nothing too bad. The enemy is not dying as quickly because I'm already killing them, so it's a bit of a silly complaint, to be perfectly honest. Otherwise, everything went alright, and the enemy is defeated in a timely fashion. Excellent, that turned out to be a relatively simple battle. Didn't lose too much in the way of health. A couple of the tanks did manage to crash into things, and that caused the most damage, but otherwise, not too bad. Oh, you're the Twin Guard. You meant to go to Twin Guard, not the Steel Empire. Still, doing quite well there. This force, though, needs to go take on the Onyx Watch. You seem to be having a little bit of trouble with the amount of resources I, well, don't have. Being localized resources is a lot trickier to identify where the resources, well, aren't. Twin Guard and Steel Empire forces are combined again. Annoyingly, this is mostly drones. Right, the Onyx Watch force, though, is now ready to be attacked by the local forces, and we're being pulled into battle. Which battle are we being pulled into? This is the Steel Empire force. Okay, well, we'll do this battle. Even though I'd planned to do the Onyx Watch one, let's go do this one first of all. Everything's lined up nicely. We are taking on Steel Empire and Twin Guard at once again. So let's see how this fares. It could be quite messy because we're going to spend a while taking out these drones, then Steel Empire is going to come in and cause a load of damage. Indeed, it's quite a significant battle here, and there's a lot of drones there, which is going to be quite irritating. Though it looks in the distance there, the Polaris just detonated itself, which is good because the Polaris is a horrifically powerful ejector weapon, which if it got close to my forces could have easily annihilated basically the entirety of everything, which I'm glad it was defeated. Though the drones are going to be quite annoying, the name irritation is definitely very apt. Clam cannons coming in though from the Steel Empire and coming towards the boombox, which has actually been detonated. Looks like the cannon got hit there and its main gun got detonated there almost entirely and knocked it down to quite a low value in short order, which is very, very unfortunate. Most of the vehicles are having a bit of a pile up there, doing a lot of damage, but all the repair tentacles on each other is keeping them all nicely repaired. New tanks dashing around in doing their little thing, but actually having difficulty aiming at targets, which is what I thought might have been the case. The heavy tank though, now taking the brunt of the force since the boombox has been completely neutered. Scout tank there trying to get on a target, but again, not really wanting to fire. It's now been pushed over onto its side, it probably did fire and tipped itself over. Heavy tank now being repaired by one friendly drones, but is still getting absolutely bombarded by everything, using up huge amounts of resources in its repairs, which is going to be becoming a little bit of a problem, because if I run out of materials, as can be seen there, I'm down to 8,000, and it's going up and down at a very, very rapid rate, going up as I kill things, and down very, very quickly since I am repairing everything. Again, all our tanks just crashing into each other, despite trying to fight the Twin Guard there. The Twin Guard don't seem to be doing that much damage, it's just all ramming into each other. I level up though, which is very nice. Speeding up gameplay a little bit, since we are now mostly winning in this battle. There's only a couple of vehicles left standing at full capability, one of which is that one there, and then moving back to the rest of our forces, we really only see a couple of vehicles disintegrating and a few of those drones going around throughout everything. Heavy tank though still taking a significant amount of damage, and still costing a lot to repair. And still Empire Crown Cannons is doing nicely there, but it is being bombarded at long range. Still, now going even faster, and essentially nothing is left of the Steel Empire. There's this one tank doing there, but that is the heavy tank being completely bombarded by our own vehicles. It was almost destroyed, but then one of the repair drones comes over and fixes it up nicely for us. I think this is the last of the Steel Empire tanks, as it just fires towards the rest of our forces, but it doesn't really have much in the way of effective weapons left alive. Yeah, so the last few bits are just being disintegrated there, as the rest of our tanks just ram into them, again causing more damage to themselves than the enemy is causing to us. And now it's just waiting for this last little drone, and this drone took ages and ages to kill. I've sped this up 6 times and it takes an absolute age even now. I think the total battle this time was a single drone took about 4 minutes to kill, if not longer, and that is insane for one drone against my entire force. Yikes, that battle went on for a really rather long time. Just goes to show how long it takes for a battle to complete if you don't have dedicated anti-air against the Twin Guard. Still, there's a couple of things which I noted from that. One, our repair capabilities were all that were keeping us alive, which could mean that going on to this localized resource rather than centralized could cause a significant problem, because it does mean that we might run out of resources for keeping our vehicles basically alive. Then again, that makes it a little bit more interesting, trying to make sure I have resources to try and keep things repaired, and does mean that we could end up suffering a few more casualties. Still, it is worth considering maybe going back to centralized resources. We also lost the Kriegsjäger. I thought that might be the case from the last episode where it kept on dying, but there we go. So unfortunately you did not last very long at all. Sad to say. I don't think we have enough resources to repair this force though, which is going to cause a bit of a problem. So let's pull logistics drones, send that in to try and get these guys repaired, and oh dear, this group is actually blockaded by 2 enemy forces. Let's face off against both of these forces then. And this is going to be a real mess, so by the looks of it, a load of their vehicles are going to crash and collide instantaneously, so that will give us a little bit of bonus, I guess, but this is still going to be an absolutely horrific battle. Also, I don't know why these two designs haven't finished repairing. They definitely have enough resources. Maybe it's the volume, but still. They have resources and they've been being repaired for ages. Unfortunately, looks like oh dear, forgot to spawn in the land. Looks like we're going to be massively outnumbered, almost 2 to 1 by the Onyx Watch. And that is quite terrifying. So there's going to be a lot of cramshells coming our way in a moment. So let's see them all fly. And this is a lot of shots coming out from the cram cannons of the Onyx Watch there, just observing at long range all those huge flares from all of those cannons. Barrage after barrage being launched towards us, and that is a quite terrifying bombardment of cram shells. Thankfully, due to the initial movement of all our forces, very few do strike, though the ones which do strike cause a rather insane amount of damage to our craft. The Gatling cram there taking a lot of the aimed shots, but not many have struck it yet. The main targets being the Benny Blade there and the Challenger 2. Fortunately, the Benny Blade and the Gleaming Rust crash into each other as the Gatling crampage spools up its gun, but it now takes a hit at the front and now almost loses almost all its barrel components, making it not very accurate for the duration of the rest of this battle. It still is quite active though, which does mean it is still a very good target for the rest of those Onyx Watch firing. The next barrage though is firing towards the rest of our flanking tanks there. That's one of Tostov's designs, with all the shields on. I can't quite identify which one it is, unfortunately. And it looks like a load of our bombers are now moving in for the kill and operating exactly how I wanted them to. The Onyx Watch being made stationary by our combat forces, and then a awesome barrage of shells being launched down from our bombers. Unfortunately, one of the bombers just took a direct hit from a cram cannon there, which is highly unfortunate. And it does look like it's going to fall down slightly. Fortunately for it though, it just launched a load of its cram bombs, flying it up into the sky, making it actually move out of the way, actually saving its life, which is quite cool. Gatling crampage there, again being pretty much weakened and not really effectual, but still acting alive and essentially not dying, which is very, very important for all our forces. Load the bombs just going along, and some actually hit towards our tanks, but those bombs are still quite effective, since they were shot and ran out of gas in the air, but they will always strike a target. And the battle is lasting a long time, so I decide, you know what, let's go try and capture some things. I need the resources. Resources have been a real problem for this battle because I'm doing so much repairs. I have a decent amount of materials with me at the moment, but I get shot and killed, which is part of the course, I guess, when trying to capture. Still, resources for the Onyx Watch force are doing okay, but the other forces I was having a little bit of difficulty, so I do think it's very important to try and capture some of these Onyx Watch designs, since they are also very, very easy to capture and worth a rather ridiculous amount of resources when done so. Not quite as much as some of the Lightning Hood's designs, because Lightning Hood's designs have loads of ions and RTGs, but the amount of heavy armour and cram cannons in Onyx Watch makes them very valuable targets regardless. Here notice that I haven't quite added all my forces into the same resource groups, and so quickly rectify that, allowing the laser to continue firing and coring out AI at long distance, something which is very, very handy for it to do. I try and capture the last design, but I decide no, it's far too dangerous, let's just watch it die. Yikes, that was quite painful. One thing I did forget to do is, with this force, is make sure everything is sharing its resources. There we go. A couple of my designs did run out of fuel during that battle, which is irritating. Okay, so what do we capture? We captured a couple of vehicles, which do need to do in order to basically, well, keep on the good fight. And then what do we lose? So we actually only lost one vehicle. That is the Pack Hydra Assault vehicle. Everything else did survive. Took a lot of damage and used a lot of materials up, but did actually all survive. So that is really rather good. Oh, and we're in another fight already. Okay, no rest for the wicked, it seems. It doesn't look like this battle's going to take very long. What are we facing? What 3, 4 designs? Yeah, not going to take too long. I think one of them is actually got subspawns, so that will be a little bit longer, but otherwise this is going to be a very, very quick battle, I think. And a quick battle is good for the last battle of this episode. And yeah, there's not that many designs to face. They are subspawns, as I thought there would be, but it's really just the two mechs. And they die fairly easily. The tops do get disabled quite readily, and then it's just waiting for the bases to get disabled in order for them to stop being sustained by repairs. And really, the first couple of barrages there has done the vast majority of the damage. The simple lasers there from the snake just tear through the top while they're amusingly powerful. And both those shots there, you can just see components being stripped off from both of them there. And then again, missiles are being detonated by various APS and cramshells as they strike the bases, so limiting the amount of damage the missiles are actually being able to do to the mechs themselves. However, then after the APS fire, the missiles then do strike, doing not that much damage, I guess, but the missiles have been proven invaluable against other Twin Guard forces, so I definitely do find them very, very important to have. Again, simple lasers going through and just tearing through everything, and then there's the Beluga firing at the base, calling out the AI in those base structures for me there as well. Again, more of our tanks deciding that ramming is the best solution for combat. I need to cover things with rams, make things a lot safer, I think. Right, so that was again a fairly successful battle. Did almost lose one of their tanks again, I think, because they keep ramming into each other. But otherwise, we're doing rather successfully so far. The next watch forces didn't do too badly, which is rather nice. The Steel Empire force is definitely doing quite poorly at the moment with how much resources it has, but otherwise it is doing very nicely. So that's very good, but I think I'll end the episode there. So thank you very much for watching this episode of From the Depths Ashes of the Empire Community Edition. If you did enjoy the episode, please leave a like and or comment below, as it is always great to hear from you lot. Also, be sure to check out the rest of my channel for more From the Depths videos and other games. Otherwise, that's it for me for now, and I shall see you next time. But until then, I'm out. Goodbye!